Do you ever read a book and then stare at the cover page and then turn it around, look at the back, read a little bit the description, and then think to yourself, just what am I reading? And then you keep going anyway. That is the kind of weird that we are going to talk about today. Hello there. Welcome to the weirdest books in my little shelf, the good weird and the just weird. So let's talk about the good weird first. Now, these are the kinds of books that will make you crave and yearn for more of this kind of literature. It will make you look for them everywhere: bookshelves, Amazon, other things or other places where you can find books. You get me? Those are these kinds of books. And the first book that I want to talk about is Orlando by Virginia Woolf. I actually read Mrs. Dalloway before, and so I thought that that would prep me for this book, but I was very wrong. Orlando was time traveling and gender swapping, and at times it felt like reading something when you're very, very drunk, like happy drunk. That's how this book made me feel. We follow Orlando as Orlando tries to discover the purpose of life and writing. And even if Orlando changes, like Orlando changes gender, one part he's a woman, and then other parts of the book he's a man. He just, or he or she, well, Orlando just keeps on writing. Orlando just keeps on living. Orlando just keeps on existing. That's what makes this book so freeing, is that there's no box for the character. You just see someone who's trying to exist and figure out life for what life is. Okay. So the second book I want to talk about is Beloved by Toni Morrison. This book was hauntingly weird. It was so surreal, so heartbreaking. We follow the story of Beloved, who is the baby that the mother of the book, okay, and spoilers alert, killed. And so we see them deal with this loss, the rationale behind the actions of the mother. And it was just a really good blend of poetic writing and telling the story of unrecognized women at the time, what it means for them to be simultaneously a woman, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend. This book made me cry at the end. Um, and it really haunted me for days because it exposed me to very raw emotions and trauma. But it was worth it because it made me have this point of view on how women of color were being seen or unseen actually in those days. And, how we as women still deal with some of the trauma that was beautifully written by Morrison in this book. So definitely worth the read. And the next book that I want to talk about is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Well, this was one wild ride. Get it? Because, Oscar Wilde. I like to think I'm funny like that. So, anyway, so seriously talking now, this was sinfully funny. And then Wilde has this way of taking you back into the tragedy. We follow the story of Dorian Gray, who was an innocent youth who was then befriended by Lord Henry, and their friendship and also a book sparked something within Dorian Gray that made him revel in his vanity and live for pleasure. What Wilde was doing was he was putting a mirror on Victorian London. He wanted his peers to see the hypocrisy of it all, how their false morality is affecting their generation. And I just love the way that he was able to portray and teach us a lesson without being preachy. Um, Next up is The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. This is the short story. I know the cover is kind of racy, but we shall continue. So, this is a short story about a woman who has a mental illness, and her husband was taking care of her by locking her all day long in this room with a yellow wallpaper. And so she starts to see things and smell things. And I felt what she felt. That's how powerful the short story is. I felt the creeping madness, the suffocation. I felt indignant because she was unheard, she was unseen, which I think where the true beauty of the writing life, that when you think about it, the real horror is not the yellow wallpaper and not the things that move around you when they're not supposed to move, but it's the fact that you're being unseen. You're misunderstood and unseen and unheard, and no matter how much you scream and you ask for help, no one comes to your rescue. That was the real horror for me in this book. And I totally recommend this if you want something short but powerful. It's gotta be the yellow wallpaper. And the last book is going to be displayed in this part or in this part because for the life of me I cannot find where I've placed that book. Can't find it anywhere. But it is my most favorite weird book, which is Bunny by Mona Awad. Just that one book by Mona Awad, and I fell in love with her. We follow the story of this wannabe writer in a very prestigious writing program, and she joins this super girly sorority that is called the Bunnies. And guess what? They call each other Bunny. So it's like Scream Queens meets Legally Blonde, something like that. That was the whole picture in my head while reading this book. It was satire, it was horror, the writing was dreamy and then vivid. I actually bought that book because I saw that in the top part of the book that Margaret Atwood, one of my favorite writers, recommends it. And of course, she's not wrong. So if you want to escape, if you want to read something that's hilariously dark, I recommend going into that rabbit hole. Get it? Because, bunnies. Yeah, you get it. Okay, let's get into the just weird. And not to say that these books are bad, it's just that I'm glad I read them that one time, kind of weird. And first up is actually the most famous, if I'm not wrong, most famous short story of H.P. Lovecraft, which is The Call of Cthulhu. I'm so scared mentioning that name or saying that title out loud. That's how much that's how much the short story scared me. It's supernatural, but more like it's cosmic horror, the kind of horror that will make you feel small and alone, even if you're reading it in a really populated area like a park or the metro. It terrified me for days. We basically followed a lost case file detailing what happened to these people who got lost and who found Kososu and who has seen him on the verge of rising. Um, I think maybe that I was also really scared because I also already had a preconception going into this book that H.P. Lovecraft is a horror master. So maybe that added to the cake. I don't know why I said cake, but maybe it added to, my fears going into this book. But if you love something that's just going to terrify you for days and haunt you in your dreams, then The Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft is the short story for you. Okay. And the last book is a book that was banned for some time in a lot of countries, and that is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. Let's talk about the writing first. The writing was beautiful. It was eloquent and it's striking. Now, the story is like living in a monster's head. We follow Humbert, the pedophile, who was preying on Lolita. So he moves into this house with the mother and Lolita, and then we follow their journey together. And because the narrator is Humbert, it's quite unreliable. We don't really know if what he's telling us is real, if Lolita was really provoking him at times, or it was just something in his mind. This was hard to read for me because I like it when characters in the book that I'm reading are likable and, I root for them. But wow, I really hated Humbert and all that he stood for in the book. But there were also times when I felt sorry for him. And then I would be mad at myself because why would I feel sorry for this monster? But yeah, the end of this book, I cried because I I just didn't know what to feel after reading it. Of course, we see um, the aftermath of their journey together and where they ended up. I don't recommend this lightly because this is heavy to read and it's heavy to digest because, again, we're reading a story about a pedophile and what goes on in his mind. Um, so, yeah, those are the weirdest books in my little shelf so far. I also wanted to add Kafka's Metamorphosis and some Murakami books, but I thought this would be a good first try. If you have read, I can't talk now. If you have read any of these or are planning to, or have some other weird books to recommend, feel free to drop them in the comments down below, and to. I'd love to get to know more weird books. Yeah, and maybe emotionally spiral some more. That's it for me today. I'll see you in the next book. Bye.